We call this the training room. This is a depiction of how we trained young men, most of them 18 to 22 years old, to become bombardiers. That was the mission that was assigned to Midland Army Air Field, and it did it rather well because it turned out more than 8,000 trained bombardiers was the world's largest bombardier training base.
Right here in Midland.
Right here. This is the Norden bomb site. It was a highly secret weapon during World War II. The young men were instructed, you will destroy this if there's a crash or if there's a possibility that it could fall into enemy hands. What it did, it enabled the bombardier to accurately gauge several factors and drop the bomb accurately on the target. And so that was what they trained them to do. And when they got to a certain point in the training, they actually went aloft, and they were in aircraft flying at 10,000 feet, picking out targets and dropping small practice bombs. They were 100 pounds, filled with baked sand and about 2 pounds of black powder, and they would explode. And there were about 36 different targets scattered around the Midland area that they used. And they were flying these missions in 3 segments, a total of 21 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because the cadets had to get trained in all kinds of weather and all kinds of site conditions. They had to be able to drop bombs after dark. The training on the ground was done in a variety of ways. This panorama gives an idea because the cadets were put up on platforms and they were using the same technology that they would use later in the aircraft. The training here was all done at 10,000 feet. In combat, most of the bombers were flying at 25 to 30,000 feet. So our targets here were 1/3 the size of what they would have actually been if it were a combat mission.
Okay.
And so this shows how they did this, and they were on trolleys and they could move around. And then of course they also had to learn about the types of aircraft. And these models were actually made by Midland High School students during World War II.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So it just goes to show you everyone contributed at
Everybody
that time.
contributed a great deal.
Yes.
Yes, they did. Please don't disturb the people in here, please.
Oh, okay. We'll be very quiet.
All right.
So this looks like it's ideal life at home in a 1940s home during the war.
Absolutely, yes. The weapons over here were liberated by one of the men who served in Europe during World War II and came back and lived in Midland, and his estate donated those to us. This man right here, his name is Zamperini, and he was a bombardier in the Pacific during World War II. And they wrote a book about him, and they made a movie about him, and I highly recommend it. It's one of the most unique stories that I have ever seen.
And he trained here?
He trained here, and this is a picture of him getting his bombardier wings.
Wow.
Everybody had a part. And the part for the civilians was to conserve items that were in short supply, to make do, to figure out new ways to do things, and to gather things that could be recycled, such as rubber or aluminum or steel. And so Boy Scouts were gathering it up, and the Cub Scouts were gathering it up, and mothers and fathers whose kids were in the service were gathering all this up. I was a teenager during the war, and my father was a mobile service station operator, and so I took coupons, and we would sell as little as 3 gallons of gas.
Wow.
And we would put patches on top of patches on top of patches, so they could get their tires aired up, and we'd get them to the next town.
Right. So all of this in turn would be used for making planes and weapons, or
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Everything possible got recycled.
Okay.
And it not only that, but everybody had coupon books. And the ration cards allowed you to buy butter or shoes or tires or gasoline. And as you did that, you were doing your part. And so it was a case where the entire United States unified for one mission, and that was to defeat the Japanese and the Germans.
Now, is a lot of this stuff, is it donated from local families and?
These items, these artifacts have come from different places, different sources. We have people that come in and they say, here's something that might be of interest to you, and it's remarkable the things that we find and the things that are donated to us. We've recently had a donation that included some pristine copies of Life magazine from 1941 up through 1944.
Oh.
We have individual ration books from a man who was stationed here at Midland Army Air Field, and a lot of the things that he had while he was stationed here. And he was not a trainee, he was helping keep the functions working.
Okay.
And among other things, he had a card that would allow him to go get fed in the mess hall at midnight.
Oh.
And it was called a midnight chow hall token. And
Okay.
because he was working a different shift.
Wow.
We were operating out here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This aircraft is an AT-11. It is a variation of the Twin Beach. It has 2 engines. The difference in this and the one right next to it, this was a general transport aircraft, and this is the one that we use now to do for night flights during Christmas time. This aircraft was actually used at both Midland and Big Spring, where they also trained cadets to be bombardiers. There were 3 different bases out here that were used for that: Midland, Big Spring, and San Angelo. And Midland was the headquarters for that.
Okay.
This aircraft is an AT-11. As you see, it has a bowl nose, and that was where the cadets sat with an instructor while they were learning how to operate the Norden bomb sight.
Okay.
And-
Now, is that area underneath, that's where the bomb would go?
Well, they had practice bombs, and there were 2 racks. Each one of them held 5 bombs,
Okay.
and each bomb weighed 100 pounds. And the instructor was sitting up here with the cadet. Generally only one pilot in the aircraft. They normally did not have a co-pilot on board. There was a second cadet, and he was in the back. And when the cadet in the front found his bomb target, then he would tell them, and then he would push a button and open the bomb bays, and then he would push another button and 5 practice bombs would fall out. And while that was happening, the cadet in the back was filming this with a movie camera, and that was the way they graded the students. We are assigned a certain number of aircraft by the Commemorative Air Force, and once we accept that assignment, it's up to us to maintain, restore, fly the aircraft if at all possible,
Right.
and keep doing it. The joke is you fly it 1 hour and spend 10 hours getting it ready to fly again.
So all of these are original, or are they or are any replicas?
There are no replicas. Everything here is an authentic World War II, Korea, or Vietnam aircraft, and they are all authentic, with the exception of one. We have a U.S. aircraft disguised as a Japanese Zero,
Okay.
because there were virtually none of those aircraft left, and when they wanted to make movies, they had to figure out a way, and what they did is they took basic U.S. Army trainer aircraft and remodeled them until they looked like the Japanese, and we have one here
Oh, okay.
right now.
Wow. Some of these you have to really
Yes,
duck.
we try to tell the young people who come and visit here that they got to stay with their parents or the adults, because
Oh, I'm sure.
they start running around. There are lots of sharp objects around here.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of surprised at how small these are.
Mhm.
Like, you know, you think of these airplanes and you think of them as big kind of airplanes that we have now, but they're pretty compact.
They are. These are primarily the aircraft that would have been used for trainers. We do have some that survived wars, and we have some that are much bigger. This is our convertible. We love to fly in this one in the summertime.
I'm sure.
It is so much fun. It's the only open cockpit aircraft that we have,
Okay.
and it was used as a trainer aircraft during World War II.
Okay.
And you can buy rides in this and many of the other aircraft, depending on the availability of the aircraft and a pilot,
Okay.
because you have to be qualified by the FAA to fly certain aircraft. And so all of our pilots are highly trained, highly skilled. We're growing another generation or two of pilots right now, and we're excited about that.
Yes, that's very exciting to keep it going.
Yes.
So, are all these different planes that you offer for rides, are they listed on your website, or?
Yes,
Okay.
they are. Mhm.
Okay, but really call for availability,
Yes,
right?
yeah. And it's very interesting. We had a young man that showed up one Saturday at our museum, and he just indicated that he was from Japan, and he was at San Antonio training on one of the U.S. military aircraft, and he had found out that we had a certain type of aircraft, and he said there are several of these in Japan, but none of them that are flyable. And he drove all the way from San Antonio to Midland to take a flight in one of our aircraft.
Wow.
And that's not unusual. We have people who will come all the way from the West Coast to fly in one particular type of our aircraft.
I'm sure it's very special.
Back here we have quite a variety of aircraft. This is a Korea aerial aircraft, and was acquired by one of our members who had flown combat missions in Vietnam. And he said, at one time I saw this airplane from a distance, and he said we did not have to engage it, but he said I never forgot the cloud pattern that it was painted in, and so he acquired this aircraft and had it repainted in the flag or in the cloud pattern. This aircraft is extremely rare. It is one of two that engaged in a mission against the enemy over in the Gulf of Sidra. And two aircraft being flown by enemy pilots buzzed the aircraft carrier, and the commander of the American carrier sent two airplanes up, and they found the two enemy. The enemy did not back down. There was shooting, and this aircraft was called Fast Eagle 102. The other one was Fast Eagle 107. Each one of them shot down an enemy MiG.
Wow.
And the other aircraft, Fast Eagle 107, later was destroyed in a training accident.
Oh, no.
This one was cosmetically restored about 5 years ago, and we're very excited to have it. It looks exactly as it did when it had that mission. Mm-hmm. And one of the people who came and worked on it had been the crew chief when it made that mission many years ago.
We hope that you guys come check out the Midland Army Airfield Museum. Now, do they need to make an appointment or call ahead of time to be able to visit?
No, we're open virtually every Saturday from 10 to 3, free admission.
Okay.
And we just have a wonderful time. We love to have visitors. That's what we're here for. And we love to be able to tell the story of what happened here and what happened in World War II, and even things about World War I and Korea and Vietnam.
Well, awesome. Thank you guys again for showing us around. There's so much to see here, so much more that we didn't even get to show you guys today, and we hope that you check it out.